Alright, so today I want to give you a ball python breeding update. I want to show you some of my hatchlings that have just shed out in my hatchling rack. I had my very first clutch of 6 hatchlings, and the last 3 have finally shed. They're looking pretty awesome. And I'm still kind of working out the identification of these hatchlings, but I pretty much think I have it figured out. I also kind of wanted to go through the eggs in my incubator. I have some that are hatching in about 7 days, which is pretty awesome. These are actually bamboo combinations, and I have some other ones that are probably a few weeks out as far as when they're going to hatch. And I kind of wanted to give you an update on what I have cooking in the incubator. Alright, take a look at that beautiful snake. That is a stunner. This guy's a little squirmy worm, squirming all over the place. Brand new out of the egg, hasn't even had his first meal yet, just shed. And usually at this point, this is when I feed him for the very first time. Look at that beautiful hatchling, so stunning. And I'm pretty sure this was actually a cross between my pastel Enchi Desert Ghost bred with my pastel Calico female. So I'm assuming that my female is not het for Desert Ghost. So if that is the case, then this would be, I think this is a super pastel Enchi. And what kind of the weird thing about this is it looks like, almost looks exactly like my pastel Desert Ghost, the male that produced this. Kind of crazy. It's a really high contrast. And sometimes the Desert Ghost can kind of fool you, because sometimes you think there's Enchi in the Desert Ghost when there's actually no Enchi at all. But you know, I'm pretty sure my female wasn't het for Desert Ghost, so I'm pretty sure that this one is a super pastel with the Enchi. And look at that crazy pattern on that one. That is fantastic. As a matter of fact, I might actually keep this one, especially if it's a female. If it's a male, I might sell it. But I'm kind of trying to beef up my Desert Ghost project, looking to hold back some females, especially something like this. That is a real stunner. Alright, so this one finally shed out, and the weird thing is when I first hatched out, I thought maybe there was some cinnamon in here because it was a really silvery colored snake, and then after it shed, you can definitely see it has a lot more color. I definitely don't think there's any cinnamon. Sometimes they can fool you when they hatch out. You're kind of wondering what they are, and sometimes they really don't show their true colors until after the first shed. As a matter of fact, it might take a few sheds for this one to actually show its true colors. So what I'm thinking this one is, as a matter of fact, a lot of people have tried to help me in the identification of these. I think this one is a super pastel Enchi with the Enchi's kind of reducing the pattern into kind of tiger stripes right on the side. Sometimes a super pastel can kind of fool you, because sometimes, you know, with the super pastel it can kind of jumble up the pattern, but I'm thinking with more of the tiger stripes in this guy, I'm thinking that is probably due to the Enchi. Pretty amazing combination. You can definitely see his washed out head from the super pastel. This is, I haven't figured out the males and the females yet. They're just out of the egg. I'm actually going to feed them for probably a few meals until, you know, they get up to size before I actually go through and probe them. Pretty amazing looking snake. Alright, take a look at this little ball. This is why they call him a ball python. This guy is like tight into this solid ball. It is pretty crazy. And essentially what I think this is all the genes in the combination. As a matter of fact, if any of these are females, I'll probably keep them back. As a matter of fact, even if this one is a male, I might hold it back. So I think what this one is, I think this is a super pastel Enchi Calico with all the genes in the mix. Pretty amazing. And it's weird how you start mixing all the genes together, and sometimes you can get these kind of a faded out effect on a lot of these snakes, and then once you breed them out, you can get back all your pastels and your super pastels and stuff like that. Pretty amazing. So if this was actually a male and I bred it back to my female, I would actually get half of the offspring would be super pastel, because my female is pastel, which is pretty amazing. And I just noticed right here it has a little heart right on the side. That is kind of cool. This is a pretty amazing combination. Well, it seems like there's a lot of different genes in here. It's kind of wild how the Calico is working in this to kind of fade it out all through the back of the snake. Pretty amazing snake. All right, so I actually have 2 boxes of snake eggs here that should hatch in about 7 days. Pretty exciting. So as a matter of fact, in 7 days they'll hatch. So pretty sure in 5 days they'll start cutting through, and I can actually cut the eggs. Unless they're actually kind of cutting through today, then I might actually get into more of an egg cutting video. But usually what I do is I wait until the hatchlings are starting to cut the shells of the egg. And right now these are looking fantastic. A little bit dimpled in, but that is pretty much normal. As a matter of fact, a lot of people do cut them now. You could probably cut into them, but I don't like to cut them until, I actually lost an egg when I was cutting them really early, probably about this early. And the problem is if you cut them this early and they're still attached to like the embryo, kind of the yolk inside, and I've actually had one come out and the yolk was still attached to the abdomen and he pulled away from it, and I think that is what killed the hatchling. So I never really want to cut the eggs. As a matter of fact, when that snake died, that was like a $6,000 snake at the time, and I was like kicking myself for cutting so early. Now I do not cut until the snakes are cutting little slits in the eggs, but these are looking fantastic. So those are 5. And those should hatch here in a few days. This is actually my pastel number 1, bred with my bamboo calico. Pretty amazing cross. And I actually separated them up into 2 boxes because I really don't like to put 10 eggs into 1 box. It's almost too much for that. So I separated them up into 2 sets of 5. Let's take a look at this one. And it looks like these are doing pretty good. One of them kind of has some weird mold, like right on the side. And it's a little bit, I don't know if you can see that, it's a little bit pink and furry, but that is usually perfectly fine as long as the rest of the egg is white. So all these, it looks like all of them are going to hatch, which should be pretty amazing. That would be a pretty amazing clutch. Alright, so here's my other box eggs. This one is my bamboo calico crossed with a lemon blast, which is a pastel pinstripe. And these still have about a month. And I kind of piled up the eggs in here. This is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 eggs. So pretty much 9 eggs is the maximum for this. But take a look at these. These are looking fantastic. Pretty amazing. So this is kind of a weird one. I actually had a full-size slug that had no veins at all inside of it. I'm just kind of keeping it in there just for kicks to see what happens. But the last time I looked at it, it was like a week ago. I had no development at all in that slug. First time I've ever seen a slug that was an infertile egg full size. It's this one right here. Kind of weird that I actually had that in the mix. Usually they're like a smaller, browner egg, like about half the size of a ball python egg. Really interesting that I actually had a full-size slug, but these are looking fantastic. And usually what I do is I just go through and wipe off I use a press and seal on top, and I just take a little paper towel, wipe it off, and I think it's good to go in and check and make sure that nothing's dripping and raining on the eggs, and you kind of get rid of all the condensation. And I've actually heard some people say that the press and seal doesn't really breathe, which I always thought it was kind of, the air would go in and out through the press and seal, but apparently people are saying that it doesn't breathe. So I like to go in at least every couple weeks and just kind of open it up and give them some air, especially if you get close to hatching. I like to kind of open it up and give them a little bit of air. Alright, so here's my last box. This was a cross between my albino pied and my bumblebee, which is a pastel pinstripe, possible yellow belly and possible het pied. And this one there's only 1 egg in here. And if this one actually hatches it, I'm actually going to name this one Hail Mary, because this is like a Hail Mary clutch. It was a whole clutch of slugs and only had this 1 weird egg right at the end that kind of hatched, and it's kind of looking fuzzy and purplish and kind of a little bit funky. It looks like it might hatch, which is kind of interesting. And this one's not going to hatch until, well, this one will hatch August 6th. So it's about 3 weeks away, which is not too bad. If this one hatches, it'll be a miracle, and it'll be kind of interesting to see if that bumblebee is really het pied. If I get a visual pied, I'll actually prove out the pied. And if I get a yellow belly, which is kind of hard to see yellow belly, if I actually get a yellow belly just by itself, then it's pretty obvious. But sometimes you get yellow belly mixed into certain combos and it's hard to see. Unless you get like an all white snake, which would be like an ivory or something, which is, you never never know if the yellow belly is in my albino pied. I doubt that it is though. But that's kind of, you know, a one in a million shot that this egg would actually hatch. I don't think it actually will. Alright, so there you have it. That is an update on my ball python breeding season. Pretty exciting. And it's even more exciting once your hatchling rack fills up with hatchlings and then you can go through all the hatchlings and kind of watch them as they age a little bit. And kind of my plan for these snakes, as a matter of fact, a lot of people have been asking, when am I going to put my hatchlings over on Morphmarket? And usually what I do is I wait until they've had at least 6 meals. I know some people say they usually wait until 3 meals, but you know, I'd say, you know, a lot of times even after 3 meals, they can be pretty picky eaters. And let me tell you, once they pass 6 meals, they'll pretty much eat anything, and that is really the safe zone, especially for someone who's new into ball pythons and is not used to feeding live or kind of dealing with some of the feeding issues with brand new hatchlings. If you can actually wait until like between 6 and 10 meals before you sell your hatchlings, then a lot of people will have really good success with the hatchlings and be able to feed them without feeding live. Some people have a hard time feeding live, and I found most of the times the hatchlings will only eat live mouse hoppers for the first few meals, and sometimes it takes like 4 or 5 live mouse hoppers before you can transition them over to a frozen thawed. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.